Have you ever imagined being told your baby might not live to see her second birthday? And then being given a single, almost impossible chance to save her? This is the kind of story that changes everything. For one family and for thousands of strangers who chose to care. Ava was just 5 months old when her parents started noticing something felt off. Not obvious at first, not dramatic, just small, quiet differences that slowly grew louder with time. Her mother, Lena, often described her as a happy baby. Ava loved faces. She would light up when she saw her parents walk into the room. Her tiny hands would twitch with excitement, and her eyes followed every movement like she was trying to understand the world as quickly as possible. But there was something else, something they couldn't explain. While other babies her age were starting to lift their heads during tummy time, Ava struggled. At first, Lena brushed it off. Every child grows at their own pace, she told herself. There's no need to worry yet. But one afternoon, everything shifted. At daycare, one of the caregivers gently mentioned something to Lena. "I don't want to alarm you," she said carefully. But Ava doesn't seem to be holding her head up like the others. Maybe it's nothing, but it might be worth checking. Those words stayed with Lena the entire day. That night, she watched Ava closely. Every movement, every tiny effort. And for the first time, she noticed it clearly. Ava wasn't just a little behind. She was struggling. They visited a doctor soon after. The examination was quick, calm, and reassuring. "It could be completely normal," the doctor said. "Some babies just develop more slowly. Let's keep an eye on it." Those words brought temporary comfort. But deep down, Lena felt something wasn't right. And over the next few weeks, things didn't improve. They got worse. Ava's legs barely moved. Her body felt unusually soft when held. She remained alert, smiling, curious, but physically, something was clearly holding her back. It was like her mind was racing forward, Lena later said, but her body couldn't keep up. Then came the night that changed everything. It started with a cough. At first, it sounded like any other baby cold. But within hours, Ava was struggling to breathe. Her tiny chest rose and fell rapidly, and panic filled the room. They rushed her to the hospital. Doctors moved quickly. Tests were done. Oxygen support was given. The diagnosis at that moment, pneumonia. Lena and her husband Daniel stayed by her side the entire time, barely sleeping, watching every machine, every breath. But something didn't add up. Even as the infection was treated, Ava wasn't recovering the way doctors expected. Her breathing remained weak. Her movements remained limited. And that's when a specialist was called in. Days later, in a quiet hospital room, Lena and Daniel sat across from a neurologist. The atmosphere felt heavy, too quiet. The doctor spoke gently, but the words landed like a storm. "We believe your daughter has a rare genetic condition," she said. "It's called spinal muscular atrophy, type 1. Silence. Lena didn't fully understand the words at first, but she understood the tone. Serious, irreversible, life-changing. The doctor continued explaining. "This condition affects the nerves that control muscles. Over time, those nerves stop working. Muscles weaken. Movement becomes harder. Even basic functions like swallowing and breathing can be affected. In severe cases," the doctor added carefully, "children may not survive beyond 2 years without treatment." That was the moment everything broke. Lena felt like the world had stopped. Daniel stared at the floor, unable to speak. 2 years. Their baby. Only 2 years? But the doctor wasn't finished. "There are treatments," she said. They don't cure the condition completely, but they can significantly improve survival and quality of life, especially if started early. Hope. A small, fragile spark. But it came with a cost. A massive one. There were two main options. One was a gene therapy, a one-time treatment designed to target the root cause. The other was a long-term medication that could slow the progression of the disease. But the price? It was overwhelming. One of the treatments cost more than $1.5 million. Yes, million. Lena and Daniel sat there trying to process what they had just heard. How do you even begin to fight something like this? How do you put a price on your child's life? That night, they didn't sleep. They talked, they cried. They searched the internet endlessly, reading every article, every story, every possibility. And one thing became clear. Time mattered. Every day without treatment meant more damage, more loss, more risk. They couldn't wait. But they also didn't have the money. Not even close. That's when they made the hardest decision of their lives. They would ask for help. Publicly. At first, it felt uncomfortable. Lena hesitated before writing the first post. How do you tell the world your child might die? How do you ask strangers for money without feeling exposed, vulnerable, desperate? But then she looked at Ava, smiling, watching, fighting in her own silent way. And suddenly, there was no hesitation left. They created a fundraising page. They shared Ava's story, her smile, her struggle, her diagnosis. They wrote honestly. They didn't exaggerate. They didn't hide the truth. Our daughter wants to explore the world, they wrote, but her body is slowly losing the ability to move. Those words reached people, more than they ever expected. At first, the donations came slowly. A few dollars here, a kind message there. Friends shared the post. Family members spread the word. Then something unexpected happened. Strangers started joining in. People who had never met Ava, never met Lena or Daniel, began to care. They shared the story across social media. They sent messages of support. They donated what they could. And slowly, something incredible began to build. Momentum. Each day brought new hope and new fear. Because even as the numbers went up, the clock was still ticking. Ava's condition wasn't waiting. Her breathing remained fragile. Her movements didn't improve. Every cough, every small illness became a terrifying possibility. Would they reach the goal in time? Weeks passed. The story spread further. Local communities picked it up. Small groups organized events. Some people donated anonymously. Others left long messages, sharing their own experiences with illness, loss, and hope. Lena read every single one. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she smiled. But every message reminded her of one thing. They were no longer alone. Then, one evening, something unbelievable happened. Daniel refreshed the fundraising page and froze. The number had jumped. Not by a little, by a lot. A large donation had come in from someone they didn't know. No explanation. No message. Just help. That moment changed everything. Because it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was proof. Proof that kindness still exists. Proof that strangers can become part of your story. Proof that hope can come from the most unexpected places. From that point on, the campaign exploded. Shares multiplied. Donations increased. People from different countries, different backgrounds, different lives, all came together for one tiny baby they had never met, Ava. And through it all, Ava kept smiling, unaware of the storm around her, unaware of the race against time. She simply watched the world with wide, curious eyes, as if she knew something beautiful was happening. Now pause for a second. If this story is touching you even a little, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this deserve to be seen, shared, and remembered. But the biggest question still remained. Would it be enough? Would they reach the impossible goal before it was too late? Or would time run out, just as hope was beginning to grow? What happened next? No one could have predicted. The days that followed felt unreal, like living inside a dream where every second mattered more than the last. Lena woke up each morning with the same routine. Before even getting out of bed, she reached for her phone, her heart pounding as she opened the fundraising page. Every number mattered now. Every single donation felt like a step closer to saving Ava's life. But at the same time, every delay felt like a step closer to losing her. Ava's condition hadn't paused for hope. If anything, it reminded them daily of how fragile everything was. Her breathing was still weak. Sometimes at night, Lena would sit beside her crib, watching her tiny chest rise and fall, afraid that if she looked away, even for a moment, something could go wrong. Daniel tried to stay strong, but the pressure was crushing. He worked during the day, answered messages, updated the fundraiser, and somehow tried to be present for his family. But late at night, when everything was quiet, the fear crept in. What if this wasn't enough? What if they were too late? But something powerful was happening outside their home. The story had spread far beyond their expectations. People who had never met them began organizing small events. A group of students held a bake sale. A local artist offered to donate profits from their work. Someone even started a small online campaign, encouraging others to skip one luxury purchase and donate that amount instead. The world, in its own quiet way, was coming together. Messages poured in every day. Some were short, praying for Ava. Others were long, deeply personal. One message Lena would never forget came from a mother who had lost her own child years earlier. "I couldn't save my baby," she wrote, "but maybe together we can save yours." Lena read that message over and over again, and each time it hit her heart in a different way. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about shared humanity. Then came the turning point. It was late at night. The house was silent except for the soft hum of medical equipment nearby. Daniel sat on the couch, staring at his phone, refreshing the page again and again, almost out of habit. And then, it happened. The number changed. At first, he didn't react. He blinked, looked again, refreshed. Still there, higher, much higher. His breath caught. "Lena!" he called out, his voice shaking. She rushed over. "What is it? What happened?" He turned the phone toward her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The goal had been reached. Complete. Every dollar, every donation, every act of kindness. It had all added up to this moment. Lena covered her mouth, tears spilling instantly. Daniel just sat there, frozen, as if his body needed time to understand what his eyes were seeing. They had done it. No. People had done it. Strangers, friends, communities, thousands of hearts, all connected by one tiny life. That night, for the first time in weeks, they cried not from fear, but from relief. Real, overwhelming relief. But even in that moment of joy, they knew one thing. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. The very next day, everything shifted into action. Calls were made, doctors were contacted, appointments were scheduled urgently. There was no time to celebrate for long. Because now the focus had changed. Preparation. Ava needed to be strong enough for treatment. Every small detail mattered. Her health had to be carefully managed. Any infection, any complication, could delay everything. And delay was the one thing they could not afford. The hospital team moved quickly. Specialists explained the next steps. The therapy plan was outlined carefully, with both hope and caution. This treatment, while powerful, was not simple. It came with risks. It required monitoring. And most importantly, it required timing. Lena listened to every word, holding Ava close. She had learned so much in such a short time. Medical terms that once sounded unfamiliar were now part of her daily life. But none of it scared her the way it did before. Because now, they had a chance. Meanwhile, something else beautiful was happening. Even after the goal had been reached, messages didn't stop. People continued to check in. Is Ava okay? When does treatment start? We're still thinking of you. Some even kept donating, asking the family to use the extra funds for other children facing similar battles. And that idea stayed with Lena. One evening, she turned to Daniel. We weren't the only ones in this situation, she said softly. There are other families, just like us, still searching for hope. Daniel nodded. They both knew what that felt like. The fear, the helplessness, the desperate need for a miracle. And in that moment, a new purpose quietly formed. If Ava's story could bring people together once, maybe it could do it again. Maybe this wasn't just about saving one life. Maybe it was about inspiring something bigger. As the days passed, Ava prepared for her treatment. Her condition remained delicate but stable. Doctors worked closely with the family, making sure everything was ready. Every test, every checkup, every precaution. It all led to one moment. The day of treatment. The hospital room felt different that morning. Calm, but heavy with emotion. Lena held Ava gently, whispering to her. Daniel stood beside them, his hand resting on Ava's tiny foot. No words could fully capture what they were feeling. Fear, hope, gratitude, all mixed together. Are you ready? The doctor asked softly. Lena looked down at her daughter. Ava blinked up at her, calm, curious, trusting. And in that moment, Lena realized something powerful. Ava had been fighting this entire time, without even knowing it. Now it was their turn to fight for her. The procedure began. Time seemed to slow down. Minutes felt like hours. Every second stretched with anticipation. Daniel paced quietly. Lena sat still, her eyes never leaving Ava. And then, it was done. The doctor stepped forward. It went well, she said. 3 simple words. But they carried the weight of everything. Relief washed over them again. But this time it was quieter, more cautious, because they knew the journey wasn't over yet. Treatment was just the first step. Recovery would take time. In the weeks that followed, small changes began to appear. Subtle at first. A little more movement. A slightly stronger response. Tiny signs, but meaningful ones. Each one felt like a victory. Lena started documenting everything. Every smile, every movement, every moment of progress. Not just for themselves, but for everyone who had helped them get here. Because Ava's story no longer belonged only to them. It belonged to everyone who believed in her. One day, as Ava lay on her mat, something incredible happened. She lifted her leg. Just a little, but enough. Lena froze, then smiled, then cried. Because that small movement, once impossible, now meant everything. Months later, the family shared an update. Ava was still fighting, still growing, still proving that hope, when combined with action, can change lives. And maybe that's what makes this story unforgettable. Not just the diagnosis, not just the money, but the people, the strangers who chose kindness, the family who refused to give up, and a tiny girl who reminded everyone what real strength looks like. Because in the end, hope is not something you wait for. It's something people create together. And sometimes, that makes all the difference. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends.